Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here, and I will summarize what it is we've come to ask of you. I'm Ginny Donahue. I'm the founder of On Point for College. I started out as a volunteer helping young people from a homeless shelter to get into college for 8 years. Now 16, in 1999, it stole my heart, and I left my corporate job and started On Point for College. It's been 16 years. We've now placed 5,800 people in over 200 colleges and universities. Our biggest bump in size came in 2012 when HESC gave us funding. It was College Access Challenge Grant federal funding that moved through HESC. And because we were a single source provider and we became a HESC partner, we're able to double in size in Syracuse, open an operation in Utica, and partner in New York City with Goddard Riverside Community Center in Manhattan and New Settlement Apartments in the Bronx to give them both funding and guidance on how to do a retention program. I just want to explain how we're different. There's a lot of college access programs in the state. We work with people 17 to 29. We receive a lot of referrals from the high schools, but we don't work in the high schools. We only work in community centers. We work in 27 community centers, boys and girls clubs, settlement houses, homeless shelters, refugee centers, libraries, municipal housing. 60% of the students that we meet are not in high school. Most of them are high school graduates, or they got an education somewhere else, so they don't have a guidance counselor available to them anywhere else. 30% of them have no parent in their life, and so they're very, very vulnerable. But despite all of these obstacles that they're facing, 70% of them, and most of them are community college students, return for their sophomore year, which is clearly 10% above the average community college student, despite all the obstacles that they're facing. I just want to tell you a couple of things we do that most programs don't. We have an orientation that teaches them the ropes before they go to college, because most of them are the first one in their family to go. We give them some college supplies. We provide them transportation in New York State all the way through college, either with a bus ticket or 180 mentors, including ex-Mayor Tom Young, who drove 190,000 miles last year to take inner city kids to and from college. The beginning of every semester, we go to 78 different colleges, and we sit across them in the cafeteria, and we make sure they've gotten their books and their food, and we introduce them to the campus angel, a volunteer that helps them on campus. We've done root canals, winter coats, eyeglasses, and we had so many students that were homeless that I went to my alma mater, Lemoyne College, that allows them for the last 15 years, not just kids from Lemoyne, and even kids from New York City, to live there for free for the summer if they have nowhere else to live. We do job placement. We help people with certificate programs. And Police Chief Frank Fowler said that there is no organization in the city of Syracuse that has decreased the violence like On Point for College. I want you to know we've been good stewards of the money that was given to us through HESC. We brought more than $1 million from national foundations. We're instrumental in teaming up with 3 community colleges in SUNY Oswego to bring $2.8 million First in the World grant. We're the only community-based organization in the country that got funding for that. Since we got the funding from HESC, we placed over 3,000 students in we enrolled them in college, which brought $13 million of tuition to SUNY and CUNY. Remember, most of these students weren't in high school, so they couldn't have gotten there any other way, and $17 million worth of Pell. Over the lifetime, if they get an associate's degree, it will bring $1.2 billion of taxable income, or with a bachelor's, $1.6 billion. The funding for this grant ends in August of 16, and we are asking for your support to help us to replace this $1.2 million, part of which for Utica, for Syracuse, Utica, and for New York City, so that we can continue on to do this fine work. We also know that we do know how to replicate. We're reaching people that no one else is reaching, and we are open, given additional funding, to be able to share this with other locations. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Hi, Jenny.
Mrs. Derby.
I know that in addition to the places that you work right now, you've been called by people all over the country to come and teach them what it is you do, taking what's called dislocated students and addressing that population. Can you talk a little bit about where you've gone and who you've worked with?
Yes, thank you. The Department of Ed has an affinity group run by Greg Darniter, and I was asked to do the presentation with one other person for disconnected youth for the country, to talk about how to help refugees, court-involved youth, homeless youth to be able to not only get into college, but how you can help them to make it through college. Also helping to develop materials for 14 states through the Southern Regional Education Board. Right now I'm helping to develop materials for guidance counselors in 14 states and how to work with disconnected or opportunity youth. And there was an article in the Chronicle of Higher Ed this year, and it talked about, the only CBO it talked about in the article was On Point for Colleges setting the standard for trying to help homeless students to be able to make it through college.
Wow. Amazing. One of the other things I know you do is that once someone has gotten in college, you're getting them through, and then there's the next step is finding a job. Can you talk a little bit about what you do in that regard?
I'm going to ask Sam Rouser, the Deputy Executive Director, to answer that.
Good evening. The program that you speak about, the On Point for Jobs program that we have at On Point, is developed in the last about 7 years. And what we've done is we've looked at our students that have graduated from college and looked at how can we help them find employment. Being first-generation college students, they haven't in the past had access or anyone in the family that was connected and knew how to do resume writing, that knew how to do interview skills. So we work with them to help them develop their resume writing, their interview skills. We have over 250 companies. I think you guys have a list in your packet of companies that we've been working with, and we were able to place over 300 students in summer jobs and internships in Syracuse alone. So using our development board for On Point for Jobs, using the companies in the community, we've been able to successfully help these students transition not just into college, not just through college, but to employment and finding permanent employment, internships, and summer jobs.
As you expanded from upstate to New York City, did you find any differences? Or there additional challenges, or is it really the same?
Well, Sam took New York City, and I was in Utica most of the time, so I'm going to take that answer.
You know, the transportation is different in
Yeah,
New York City. And that was one of the things that, you know, one of the services that we provide for students in Syracuse is we have about 160 volunteers that help us transport students to and from college, because we found that some of our students would come home for Thanksgiving and they had no ride to get back to school. So we had volunteers that would drive them. And so when we went to New York City, we thought we'd have somebody drive, but no one had a license. So we decided that we better get train tickets and bus tickets, and we used that. So that was one of the big differences that we found in helping the students, but the population and the need was the same. And we found, you know, good friends in Goddard, Riverside, and then New Settlement Apartments that had the same heart, that had the same drive, and were willing to help the students in the same way. And it's been a tremendous working relationship where part of what we do is we visit our students while they're on campus to develop that relationship. And for our partners in New York City, they visit all of our students from upstate. And for when their students come upstate, we visit all of their students upstate. And so that way, you know, it saves on us having to drive to New York City and them having to drive up. If I have a student in New York City that needs a book, I can call our friends in New York City and they'll take care of it. If they have a student at Ithaca College, they can call us and we'll help them out. So the partnership is working really, really well.
Yeah. And Utica is different in that 61% are refugees in the city of Utica, and 90% are commuters, whereas in Syracuse, only 40%, it's about 50-50 commuters and resident students. But the refugees particularly do not want to leave, so we have, you know, it's always a little bit tougher, right? We find the students have a 20% increased chance of staying in college if we can get them out of town, usually. because of the transportation issues, because the families are so vulnerable that if they're not in town, they're not constantly being asked to stay away from school to take care of family issues from families that are very vulnerable.
I just want to congratulate you on the success you have had at this point, and
Thank you.
you know, I really support all the